And Rafe, it's all fallen apart rather suddenly, hasn't it, for Rishi Sunak? I mean, he hasn't been in long, but it's sort of, he started all right, I suppose, because everyone thought, well, he might be better than Liz Truss was, but it's all just disappeared. The floor has literally fallen away beneath him.
Yes, but the idea that there's anyone now waiting in the wings who can turn this around is for the birds. And that's why, I mean, these Tory rebels are calling Sunak and his supporters delusional for thinking they can win the election. Well, I'm sorry, pot, kettle, black. They're just as delusional for thinking that they've got the ability to turn this old warhorse around. I mean, this warhorse is going off to the glue factory, let alone anywhere else. And the reason the Tories are going to face oblivion, a near extinction-level defeat, isn't because of Rishi Sunak. It's because they've betrayed the British public for well over a decade. They haven't delivered on their manifesto promises, and the public are tired of that. They've been dicing with death for 7 years now. Do you remember in the last months of Theresa May's tenure, the Brexit Party threatened to actually deliver a fatal blow and became the largest party in the European Parliament of all European nations. It was only Boris Johnson parachuting in that saved the Tories then, and there's no character like that today, apart from Boris Johnson himself. But he's a much more tarnished figure now than he was then.
Stephen Glover wrote a piece in the Mail today, didn't he, saying maybe Boris Johnson is the only man that can save them. But I think even now, at that point, because at least then there was Brexit to get done and you could sort of manufacture a campaign based on that. But they haven't really got anything they can manufacture a campaign on at all, which is puzzling to me as to why nobody decided to go along with Simon Clarke the other night.
Yeah, but you can't turn the supertanker around, and going with Simon Clarke, I think there is certainly an acceptance from many Conservatives I speak to that they're not going to win this election, but that is the point where they reform, they see which MPs are left, and that will absolutely be a major factor in terms of who the next leader is, because if you have, I think quite a lot of these red wall characters may go, MPs may go, and then you may have a Conservative Party actually quite similar to the one it was in maybe 2015, 2017, rather than 2019. And that could mean a whole lot of different things in terms of who the next leader is.
Yeah, absolutely right. And what about the Labour Party? You've been talking to them as well today. Tell us what they're up to.
Well, I sat down with Yvette Cooper, the Shadow Home Secretary, and they're talking about knife crime specifically today. The big question, of course, is they've got very ambitious plans. Yvette Cooper, unless there's a reshuffle, I think she's probably going to be the next Home Secretary. We'll see if Labour win, but it looks as if they will. But Yvette Cooper was talking about knife crime. She talked to me about immigration as well and a few other things. But really what they want to do is what the government has done, but further, faster, and in a much wider scope as well. But I put this question on knife crime to Yvette Cooper. This is what she had to say a little bit earlier today.
We want to get this focus on tackling knife crime to start early and to make a difference around knife crime. We want to get neighbourhood police back on the streets, and we want this action against the dangerous criminal gangs that are organising the boat crossings that are undermining our border security.
Well, the dangerous criminal gangs have been around almost as long as the Tory party have, haven't they?
And it's interesting.
A lot more successful.
I was at the Downing Street press conference last Thursday, this day last week, and Rishi Sunak was talking about the legislation there, which Yvette Cooper and her party voted against, which has put 837 gangmasters in prison serving time. I asked Yvette Cooper about that as well. I said, what's wrong with that legislation? She said, actually, the number has declined, so the legislation has to be changed again, in her view. But really, a lot of what Yvette Cooper wants to do, she talked to me as well about having youth workers in A&E, for example. I mean, a lot of that's just going to cost a lot of money. And where it's going to come from, we keep hearing about the non-doms money, we keep hearing about the private school money, possible windfall tax and so on. Well, actually, that costed manifesto that was being talked about a little bit earlier on, that's something that I think people are going to run a big slide rule over to see where's the money coming from, because if it's not coming from existing taxation, it can only come from borrowing or, of course, you and me as taxpayers.